Hi, I'm Tim Hawthorne. I'm a druid and elder bard of Gorsedd in Yswitrin, and today's episode is brought to you by the letter L, which is Lish in Irish. This letter is most strongly related with the Rowan and concepts like lustre, look, love, light and life. But we're not so interested in the comparisons with English words here. The Irish language is the most important way of making connections with these letters. And the obvious words which leap out here are words like Lear, which means sea, and Loch, which means lake. That's Llyn in Welsh. Bodies of water figure strongly at the beginning and end of many Celtic tales. Excalibur is born from and ultimately returned to the Lady of the Lake in Avalon. Baby Gwion is cast into the sea after birth to be rescued by Prince Elfin and renamed Taliesin. Both the Irish Lugh, Laufada and the Brythonic Llay were saved from drowning and brought up by foster parents. Bran sailed to the other world to acquire magical booty. Conla turns up in a bronze coracle for his ill-fated meeting with his father. Cuchulainn's charioteer Lloyd crosses a lake in a similar bronze boat to reach Fairyland in order to report on Fand, Manannan MacLear's wife, who had a crush on Cuchulainn. MacLear here means son of the sea. Mean MacAllil is renamed Lowry Lungshach, which means the mariner who speaks, after he gains his vengeance on Kovac. Libana, one of the survivors of the flood of Loch Nich, lives in a chamber under the lake with her little dog. She transforms into a salmon for 300 years before being fished out and renamed Muigan, mirroring the career of Dahut, the daughter of King Gradlon of Caerys, in becoming a mermaid. It's Libana that confirms Fan's infatuation to Cuchulainn. These Imrava, which are tales of sea journeys, may be interpreted as initiatory rites. Sacred islands and the castles of magicians, such as Caer Sidin and Caer Siont, could only be accessed over water. Learning to navigate, either by the stars or by intuition, was an essential survival skill. The Celts' ancestors had all originally come from lands over the sea. All land creatures crawled out of the sea at some point in prehistory, and every life begins with the breaking of waters during labour. So the bird related to this station is the duck, lacha in Irish or huiad in Welsh. The duck may have been considered special because it could exist on land, sea and sky, and thus would be able to access the liminal space between the elements. A duck appears in the story of Mongan the Druid. On the day of Mongan's birth, his father's steward's wife gives birth to Macan Darv, which means the son of the deer, and at the same time the wife of Fiachna the Black gives birth to Duv Lacha, which means black duck. This amphibian quality is confirmed by association with the frog, Loscan in Scots Gaelic. Bodies of water were sacred to the Celts, as we know from all the junk they chucked into rivers and lakes, and frogs were sometimes considered to represent water spirits. Frogs are associated with the underworld as witches' familiars. It's considered lucky to have a frog living in your dairy, as it guards the milk churns. The Celtic goddess Luxuria is depicted with a fox between her legs and a toad hanging from each breast. Linguistically, this station is linked to lus, which is the word for plant or herb or weed. This is where we get the idea of the sustenance of cattle from. L is a light lateral consonant. It's got a languid liquid sound which ululates and flows. So the skill related to this Ogham is the skill of being a pilot or a navigator, particularly on sea, obviously, as they didn't have air travel in those days. This gives us these wonderfully long-looking words, which are actually pronounced Luracht or Ringshuracht, which mean pilot or navigator in Irish, respectively. In Welsh, fortunately much shorter, Llwio means the same thing. And this relates to the tool of this Ogham, which is the rope. In Irish, that's Rowan, or in Welsh, Llafan. So the pilot here is the person with their hand on the rudder. Hand is law or llaw in Welsh, and the word for rudder in Welsh is lliw. So this also relates to the kingship test of being able to navigate a chariot between two stones set a hand's breadth apart. This quality is reflected in the name of Llew Guffes, who won his name due to his incredibly steady hand and virtue of him being a very, very good shot. This station could also relate to the naming of Lugh, the Irish god. Having been trained in every craft by his uncle Goivnew, he came to offer his services to the court of Nuada of the Silver Hand. When the doorkeeper of Tara asks him what he can do, he replies that he's a carpenter. To which the doorkeeper replies, well, they've got no need of a carpenter because they've got one of supreme accomplishment already. So Lugh goes through the list of skills that he's acquired and gets the same response each time. And eventually he goes, well, ask your king whether he's got someone who is accomplished in all of these arts. And this way he gets received into the service of Nuada and receives the epithet of Lauvada, which means of the long hand. And a similar ritual takes place in the gates of King Arthur's court in the Mabinogion. El also embodies qualities like light, clarity and flatness. So we've got words like lasser, which means blaze. So lustre is luce in Irish or llewrch in Welsh. The colour related to this station is grey, lia in Irish or llwyd in Welsh. The quality of flatness is represented by words like urla in Gaeilge, which is llawr in Welsh, and this means floor. This is a kind of ground floor, a stone ground floor, I think, rather than an upper wooden story. Words like stone or slab, leach in Gaeilge, or llech in Welsh. We've got words like liachan, which means wide or broad. This is very important for pronunciation of words in Gaeilge. Llydan would be the Welsh equivalent of that. So this also, talking of grammar, this also relates to words for speech itself. Lawrt in Gaeilge or lleferydd in Cymraeg. The other quality which is important, Ogham is a numeric cipher, and lia in Gaeilge means half. We know that Ogham was used as a form of musical notation, and so this may relate to concepts like string length. B for might represent the bass note, and this would be a half, like a half length of string or a half note, possibly. Yeah. L doesn't mutate in Gaeilge, and if it's followed by another consonant, which you hear in names like column or alum, which we'll come to later, or even in the name of the Irish language itself, Gaeilge, both letters are pronounced, and you almost get a little epenthetic vowel inserted in between them. The tree most commonly related with the letter L, with Lish, is the Rowan. Its name in Irish is actually Cran Cyrhan or Cerddinen in Welsh. The Orachepna Ekes also relates this station to the elm, which works a bit better in terms of alliteration because that's Liev in Gaeilge, or Llwyfan in Cymraeg. It's almost glabra in Latin if you want to look it up. I'm going to focus on the rowan tree, Scorbus acuparia in Latin, which is also known as quickbeam, or sometimes called the wayfarer's tree or the traveller's tree, because it supposedly prevents those on a journey from getting lost. A bit like a sort of pagan St. Christopher, and there's the connection with journeying again. It protects birthwaters and holy wells, often planted to keep the water sources pure. It's considered a peasant tree. It flowers in May. Its pink-red berries, which appear in the summer, are a good source of vitamin C. They also contain parasorbic acid, so it's important to give them heat treatment or drying so they don't cause indigestion or kidney trouble. She roots easily, even on steep banks. Like the birch, the rowan is a pioneer tree. She's tenacious. She grows rapidly up to 30 feet tall, can live up to 200 years. She's very resistant to the cold and loves high hillsides where it can get plenty of light and air. Rowan is strong and flexible. It can be used to make butter churns and barrel hoops. Its wood is tough enough to make ships' masts out of if you get one that's big enough. Often used for poles and whips as well. Spinning wheels and spindles were traditionally made from rowan cut between Beltane and Midsummer. The wood is dense, so it can be used for carving and turning to make tool handles and walking sticks. And the rowan fruit are also a traditional source of tannins, which can be used for mordanting vegetable dyes. Rowan has a very strong association with magic and protection in particular. Witches' metal divining wands and rune staves were often made of rowan. Sprigs can be placed over the doorway as a protection from the evil eye. A rowan twig twisted into a loop and tied with red thread has the same effect. Carters often wore a rowan twig in their hats, and rowan whips were used to control spooked horses, stakes made to immobilize ghosts. Druids would light rowan fires before the battle to invite the Sidhe to come and join them in the fight. Rowan wattles spread with newly flayed bull's hides were used by druids to compel demons to answer difficult questions. Rowan wands are used for summoning and controlling spirits as well. The rowan is a great attractor of, and thus protector from, lightning. If you want to know more about the practical magical uses of rowan, particularly for creating protection charms, hop on over to the Witch in the Woods channel, where she's got a great episode specifically on rowan magic. In the romance of Diarmait and Grania, the rowan berry is described as being one of the foods of the gods. In the romance of Frith, there's a magic rowan tree guarded by a dragon, and its berries have got the property of healing the wounded, they've got the virtue of 9 meals, and adding a year to a man's life. Cuchulainn, the Irish superhero, comes across 3 hags roasting a dog on a spit of rowan in order to bring about his death, as they knew he could neither refuse food nor eat dog meat. And the breaking of this gash weakens him and brings him closer to his death. So this is the point in the story where the hero commits to the quest. They leave their home to go on the adventure and lets go of ordinary material concerns. It's a time of quickening and of opportunity. It often involves some kind of voyage, possibly over water. This poem is related to insight, foreknowledge, clarity, and developing the art of seeing. And this is seeing things as they really are, on both material and otherworldly planes. Through gaining control of your thoughts and perceptions, you basically learn to become the pilot of your own destiny. And the chief challenge here is to stay on target. Talking of targets, if you'd like to help support me in making more videos on bardic themes, please consider joining my Patreon team. There's a link to that in the description below. I'd like to thank the Witch in the Woods for letting me use some of her magical Rowan footage. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe using the buttons below, and you can even click on the bell icon if you'd like to be notified as soon as I upload the next video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.
The queen of every hive, I'm a fire on every hill, I'm a shield to every head, I'm a spear of righteous will, I'm a wave of eternal returns, I am the grave of every hope that burns, I am a string on a star woven harp, I am nothing but my song, I am nothing but my song.